here in the US, it's praised for us to go and work 80 hours
Right.
a week. That is not what our bodies were meant to do. We
Right.
have to slow down.
You're listening to the What the Gut podcast, where busy moms can come for a holistic approach to health and vitality. I'm Allison, your host, a holistic health and wellness coach. In this space, we'll dive into the intricacies of achieving holistic wellness while balancing the demands of daily life as a busy mom. What the Gut is your haven for navigating the challenges that come with juggling numerous tasks while aiming for a healthier, more balanced life. Join me as we uncover practical solutions to common health hurdles, from managing fatigue to understanding all things gut health. Through insightful discussions, actionable insights, and tailored lifestyle strategies, my goal here is to empower you to embrace a vibrant, nourishing life while saying goodbye to being overwhelmed and exhausted. So if you're ready to embark on this transformative journey towards holistic well-being, hit that subscribe button. Get ready to discover the secrets to thriving in motherhood while nurturing your overall wellness. A quick reminder, everything discussed here is for educational and empowering purposes only and is not intended for personalized medical advice. Consult your personal healthcare provider for personalized medical advice. Welcome to What the Gut, where we create our own path to holistic health, one episode at a time. Welcome to What the Gut. Today, I'm honored to have Gina Marisa, a corporate wellness and stress management expert, join us today. Gina is passionate about helping professionals manage stress using holistic methods so they can enjoy more energy, better sleep, and less fatigue. Her incredible wellness journey really began 31 years ago after a life-challenging kidney transplant, which really inspired her to dive deep into holistic healing and wellness practices. With over 33 years of experience as a paralegal, Gina understands the impact of stress on the body and is now on a mission to empower professionals with tools to manage stress and prioritize their health. Gina, welcome to the show today.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so I know you have a story of a kidney transplant 31 years ago. And how did that experience really change your perspective on health and wellness?
Well, I tell people today that really, if I consider the transplant a blessing in more ways than one, I was pretty young at the time. I was in my mid to late 20s. So, kind of a big deal to have this major health event at such a young age. But I feel like if I had not had that experience, that I know I might not have been down this path of health and wellness. So, my dad donated a kidney, which is like the best scenario possible. Well, the best scenario would have been one of my brothers. Your siblings are 100% matches and your parents are half matches. So either of my parents could have donated, and between them, they decided my dad, because he had short-term disability, and my mom was our caregiver, which worked out fabulously. But I wanted to make sure that, I did whatever I needed to do to keep my kidney healthy. I did some research and found out that not everybody, especially if you have a cadaver, not everybody keeps their kidney. In fact, the one woman that I talked to while I was going through the process and everything, she was on her third kidney. And I was like, oh, imagine being 26 years old and talking to this woman in front of you. And I don't know, she was maybe in her 60s. And she's like, yeah, I'm on my third kidney. And I was like, what?
Scary.
Yeah, so I said I want to do whatever I can to protect my kidney. And the other interesting thing was that my doctor had told me, well, you have to be on all this medicine, and one of them is prednisone, right? Steroid. He's like, you're going to gain 50 pounds. Well, I had lost some weight at that point in time just due to my kidney failing, maybe 100 pounds. I am 5'2". And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm 5'2", I'm going to gain 50 pounds. No, that's not happening.
Well, and you're 26 at the time, like somebody
Right.
tells you that, that's like the last thing you want to hear.
Right. Well, that just goes to show you what we do in medicine.
Yeah.
When you hear people who have cancer, for instance, when they get a cancer diagnosis and the doctor says you have 3 months to live, and then that person just lives 3 months, right? Well, he told me I was going to gain 50 pounds. And I was like, no, I'm not. I just changed the narrative, right? I said, no, I'm
Right.
not going to do that. I did not gain 50 pounds. And I was on this mission to do whatever I could to keep my kidney healthy so that I didn't have to have three kidneys, three transplants. I just started digging in deep. And I call myself a wellness junkie now. And so now it's so interesting to see what it was like 31 years ago to today. We have all these biohacking tools and everything. I'm super fascinated about all of that stuff, and I look into it, and everything that I do, from what I eat to moving my body and meditation, keeping my mind sharp, everything I do is to protect my kidney. So
Yeah.
if I hadn't had the transplant, I might not be where I am today, you know?
Yeah. Gosh, that's awesome. Now, after working as a paralegal for 3 decades, you really transitioned into this career of corporate wellness. So, what really inspired you to make that leap? And what have you really learned from your own experiences with like workplace stress?
So this is so embarrassing to say. So I actually went into the field of law and being a paralegal because I didn't have to do math.
Oh, can I just say, I don't think that's embarrassing. I love that you said that.
But really, so I wanted to be an interior designer. I consider myself a creative and I wanted to do something creative. And so I was like, yeah, I want to be interior designer. When I was going to college and I'm looking all the curriculum for being an interior designer, I saw trig and, all this other, and I'm like, oh no, I can't do math, that whole limiting belief thing.
Yeah.
And so I happened to talk to a neighbor at the time, and she's like, oh, well, have you heard of paralegal? It's the up and coming job of the 90s. And I'm like, no, what is it? And she's like, it's like what a nurse is to a doctor. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I go and I'm researching what I have to do for that. And the only mathish thing that I had to take was accounting, which by the way, I had to get a tutor for that and barely got by with the skin on my teeth. But I was like, yep, that's what I'm going to do. So that's how I chose my major. That's super embarrassing to kind of say out loud today.
But it's part of your story, though.
It
But
is.
side note, my first bachelor's degree is in visual art. I always wanted to be an artist. And I am. Like, that's what I did. But in high school, I was like, I don't need math. I don't need to know this. Math is not my thing. And then the Lord called me to go back and go to nursing. And I was like, okay. That's when I had to retake a few classes.
Right.
I'm right there with you.
Okay, well, that's funny. So that's why you were like, yeah, okay, I understand that. So anyway, that's how I got into my career of being a paralegal, but it was never something that I was passionate about. And just the more that I did the research and looked into the health and wellness aspect, the more excited I got. And I started sharing things with friends and family. Did you know that if you don't eat sugar, and I kept spouting things off. And I'm like, this is really what I like. It pumps me up. And so I told myself, all right, when my daughter graduates high school, I'll leave my job. And she graduated high school and then she graduated college and then she got married and I'm still at my job. And like so many other people, stories at least that I've heard in the last 5 years, when COVID hit, we were in Florida. And so we didn't have a huge lockdown. We had to work from home for 6 weeks, but I got a taste of working from home. And even prior to that, in 2018, 19, again, I'm working on myself, right? I'm trying to be a better person, trying to be as healthy as possible. I decided that I wanted to be a yoga teacher. Went into that totally not knowing, like not really thinking that through. Just a bunch of people that I follow do yoga and they've had a lot of great experiences from it. I'm like, yeah, I want those experiences. And so it was funny because the first day of my yoga teacher training, we had to do like this little mini teach back of 3 poses that we learned or something that day. And all of a sudden, it kind of hit me, oh my gosh, I have to stand in front of people to do it's speaking in front of people. And I was like, holy crap, I did not think this through. So
Yeah.
anyway, but during COVID, I was like, wow, I get to work from home. I can have a hot meal. We didn't have an oven at work. We had a microwave, but I had already, knew about the dangers of microwaves. So I would always eat something cold. And I was trying not to go out because I didn't want to spend the money or whatever. But it was nice being home. And I could have a little bit of leeway on what I was doing. So if I work from 9 to 12 or whatever, and then I could take a break and actually walk
Yeah.
outside because I'm a big outside nature freak. I love being outside. And so I was like, wow, this is nice. I want more of this. So I don't know exactly like what the process was, but certainly being home and working and getting to do those things, just that minor having the hot meal and being able to go outside and take a walk after lunch was really important. And it must have had this super effect on me. And a couple of months. So we went back to work at the end of May, and sometime in July, I had this idea to sell everything and move into an RV. And I asked my boyfriend, so what do you think if we sell the house and live in an RV full time? And he was like, okay. And like the next day he had like 20 videos lined up for me to watch. So long story short, in March of 21, I actually did that. And I told my boss, I said, look, I am going to be moving into an RV. And so I understand if that's not going to work for you, I would love to stay on. And he said, what does that mean? I said, you're not physically going to see my face in the office. So anyway, that all worked out. And just through the years, what I noticed stress wise and being a single mom, I had various different ways that stress showed up for me, mostly digestive. Like I had IBS for a little while. And in the early stages, I didn't even know what that was. I got sick to my stomach because I was going to go on a date with this guy that I really liked. And I had to cancel the date because I had IBS. And again, I didn't even know at the time. So that was a good stress, right? Like I was so excited to go on this date with this guy and I couldn't even go
Yeah.
because
But
my bowels didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the nervousness and excitement, like your body kind of perceives that as the same thing.
Yes.
No.
So that was like kind of my first experience with that. And then I was throwing communion party for my daughter at my house and everybody came over and I had that whole stomach thing again. And I ended up being in the bedroom for half of the party. What I noticed was, okay, this is stress. This is a good thing. And yet it's still because I did everything, right? I'm single mom. So I put the guest list together and I had to clean the house and I had the food delivered and all this stuff. But it was a lot.
Yeah.
And I didn't take the time like I needed in between. And I didn't understand that at the time. I do now. But I also know that when you're a mom and when you have a job and you have a husband and you have a house, like all of that compounds. And it's so if you even just living, right, and having your family and a house outside of your job is stressful. So to add a job to that and the way that we work, especially here in the US, it's praised for us to go and work 80 hours a week. That is not what our bodies were meant to do. We
Right.
have to slow down. I love that there's this slow movement going on right now. I talked to a woman yesterday who's doing a program and it's like 40 days of rest. And I actually reached out to her. I'm like, I'm super interested in that. I need to talk to you because I was like, okay, how do you do that? Right?
Yeah.
So I do like that. And I think that more people are understanding the importance of slowing down because there's some really high percentage, like 80% of all medical issues that people go to the doctor for are related to stress. That is
Oh, I
crazy.
believe it. I believe it. Yeah. I
I mean,
believe
it's just insanity. So I saw this need to show people that it wasn't necessarily all about drugs or surgeries in order to fix all of these issues. And I go at it more at a holistic approach. And so through the yoga that I learned, I teach specifically yin yoga. When I was in my teacher training, you learn a little bit of various different kinds of yoga, even though I was training to be a vinyasa teacher, when I did yin, which was the first time I had done yin, I describe it as just a coming home feeling. I was on the mat in child's pose and I literally started crying. And I'm like, this feels like home. And so when I finished my training, I did some more yin training, and that's what I teach now. It allows you to listen to your body, which
Yeah.
people don't do today either. Now, yin is not hard, but it is difficult for a lot of people because instead of holding your pose for 3 to 5 seconds, you're holding your pose for 3 to 5 minutes. And so people get anxious, right? And they start
Mhm.
tapping. There's one pose that Bernie Clark calls the pedicure pose because you can see your toes. And so the goal kind of is not to move your toes, right?
Yeah.
Because you're supposed to be still in the pose. And it's really difficult for people to just be still and do
Mhm.
nothing.
Yes, we're so overstimulated by
Definitely.
everything and don't slow down enough. So, this holistic approach to managing stress, like, what else is it about that you really believe is so important to manage stress effectively?
Well, I've seen firsthand that doing things a more natural way really does work. It's oftentimes simpler, cheaper, and just as effective as taking drugs or having surgery. So, for instance, this wasn't necessarily a stress related thing. Well, could have been. So, working at a desk for 33 years, it was like maybe a year before COVID, I developed tennis elbow. And so I started doing some research and I'm like, why do I have tennis elbow? Like, first of all, okay, I know it's called tennis elbow, but I don't play tennis. I
Yeah.
don't do bowling. Like, I don't do golf. Like, I don't do any of those things. Oh, but what do? I'm on my mouse all
Yeah.
day for 8 hours. And I
Yeah.
was like, I bet that's what it is. So, upon doing some research, I was able to go get some therapy for it. But what I learned is that really what I needed was massage on my forearm on that tendon. And so because I couldn't necessarily afford to have somebody else do it, I got a massage gun and I just massaged the tendon and it hurt at first, right? But between that and using the band that you see people wear when they have tennis elbow and just keeping at it and being consistent, I cured my tennis elbow on my own.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, yeah, there's something to this. Like modern medicine is great for emergency medicine. So if you're in a car accident,
Need a kidney? I
you need
mean,
a kidney, yeah, fabulous for that. I'm not saying that you don't ever need modern medicine, but for the chronic diseases that we have that we're experiencing today that 100 years ago our ancestors did not, it's lifestyle mainly.
it is. And I love how you point that out because so many of these tools that we have are like we already have, like tools that you can use, like doing yoga and just sitting there and massaging your arm. Or, I mean, yes, okay, you could get a massager, to do that. But like, you don't have to go necessarily get a pill for it.
Right.
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 But I think we're so conditioned that, oh, something feels bad or is off. We go to our doctor. I was trained in Western medicine too, along with functional medicine. And Western medicine is not trained in how to completely heal these things. It's how to manage them because they don't know what to do about it.
The Band-Aid.
It is. It is. And I think that we're just so conditioned to say, like, okay, well, I'll just ask my doctor, they'll know. But
Right.
they don't. They just know how to kind of keep it at bay until you're finished with that prescription, basically.
Well, and they don't because they're not in your body,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I've heard so many stories of especially moms telling their doctor something's wrong with my kid, especially when they're under a year, something's not right. And the doctor just blows it off and says, oh, that's normal, or oh, it'll pass. It's crazy.
Mhm.
I had this child. I know my child. And I think it's so sad. But yes, we've been conditioned to ask for a pill and instant gratification.
Yes.
So, for
Yes.
instance, I know I've been listening to your podcast and you said something about using essential oils for one of your births,
Yeah.
and they work, but you have to use them consistently. People just want to do a one and done type of thing. And you can't necessarily do that because it's a Band-Aid.
It is, yeah. I mean, there's nothing honestly that's like that. But that just reminds me, even when I worked in clinic years ago, it's like if they didn't leave with a prescription, they were like, okay, well, you want a gift? Okay, here's a gift. I don't know. Some people do want that. And like, I get it. You want a quick fix. I get it. But that's just not how it is.
It's not. And that's funny what you say about the prescription. If somebody got a prescription and it read, go outside for 30 minutes a day, it'd be like, what is this?
I mean, that's what I ended up doing because I morally, ethically can't just give you out medication if it's not necessary. Even if that's what I was like told to do and trained to do, I'm like, I know what's best in a sense of not what's best, but it's like you're coming to me because of the education that I was given, right? And I'm listening to what you're saying about what's going on in your body and putting that along with it. And if I think this might make it worse, I'm not going to give it to you or cause more problems. Yeah, that's a whole other thing. But
Indeed.
now, as far as stress management, what do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about stress management?
I think probably that most people think that they, weirdly enough, don't have time. Stress management, which seems really odd, but I do think that's what it is. And my approach is not to add something to your already busy to-do list, but to make just really small tweaks to your lifestyle. Incorporating a morning routine, and maybe the first thing you do when you get up is drink coffee. Well, maybe instead you could get up 10 minutes early and drink a warm cup of lemon water just to get that digestive system moving. That's not like a crazy over the top thing. I'm not asking you to do an hour of yoga, right? I think people today really need simple things, like their lives need to be simplified and they don't know how to do that. And if I can find just these really small ways, and again, I know at the beginning you might not think that it's a lot, but over time, again, if you do it consistently, then it'll be like you're brushing your teeth.
Right.
I drink my 8 ounces of warm lemon water every morning now, once I got myself into the habit of it. And now it's like, oh, that's just like a thing I do, like brushing my teeth.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think that people just think they don't have time. But I think just what stress management looks like is also different for people. Like whenever they think about that, maybe they do think about just sitting there and doing yoga for an hour. But there's so many other things. Like it doesn't have to be like that.
Right.
Because especially like if you are a single mom, a wife, you have a job, you've got kids in school, you've volunteered to do this at your kids' school, whatever it is, you can't just put down all those responsibilities and flip the switch just like that. But it's like, what are you already doing and where can you fit things in to make them more relaxing for you, right?
Yes.
With my clients, I like to call it just stress transformation because we're not trying to completely get rid of the stress, but
Because some
it's
stress is good.
yes, but it's like, how are you going to handle it?
Right.
So I
Well,
love that you mentioned that. Just some lemon water before your coffee. Yeah.
Well, so I'm going to quote again one of your podcast episodes because I think it's a really important point that you are capable of more than you realize, especially as a mom. So you think about it, right? As a mom, again, you have kids, you have a husband, you have a house, you have a job. Like that's a lot. And then you're doing all of you're getting your kids to their things on time and you have date night with your husband and you are definitely capable of more than you realize because you're already doing it.
I think you'll surprise yourself. You'll surprise yourself if you take a step back and realize it.
Right. You just might need to rework it and maybe talking to somebody else because a lot of times when you're in it, you can't see it. Right.
Yeah.
But if you just kind of chat about it with somebody else, they can maybe see the holes. Okay. How about you get up 10 minutes early and you meditate? So you have that time for you. You know, 10 minutes before the kids are going to get up or whatever. Yeah. There's small things that you can do, but a lot of times when you're in it, you can't see it. So I get that.
Well, and I think too, okay, simple, small things you can do to help transform your stress. And you said just talking to somebody, it doesn't even have to be like a counselor or something. I think when people hear that, they might think, oh, okay, well, I don't even have time to go talk to a counselor. Call your best friend,
Exactly.
like throughout your day. Take time to go on a walk, like you said, around your lunch break. Take time to go on a walk, especially if you sit at a desk all day. At least go sit outside while you eat if it's not freezing like it has been.
Or 100 degrees.
Right. So you never know here in Mississippi, it was like so cold and then sometimes it's so hot. But, or even like a 5-minute phone call with your best friend. You don't realize how much that relaxes you, right? I love having a routine, just a morning routine and evening routine to yourself. It just sets your day up. And there's so many benefits. I mean, okay, yes, it's helping with your stress levels, but it's also instilling these practices in your head. And the more positive thoughts you're having about yourself, everything else is going to be positive too. So I love that. And I think throughout your day, there's so many different things you can do.
There are. I love that you said call a friend because even my boyfriend notices after I've spent like a day with my bestie, I come home so energized and right,
Yeah.
it's incredible. Like just call somebody who can do that for you. Or when you're sitting down at night and you're crashing or whatever and you're scrolling social media, instead of doing that, throw on a comedy show. I think
Yeah.
laughter is something that is so underrated.
Right. Yeah. I know. I think about that too. I really try not to be on my phone in the evening. And sometimes, though, at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, I just want to interact with somebody else or something. And if my husband's not here or I'm by myself out of town, I'm like, I just want to see other people. Maybe I'll get on my phone for a minute. And I'm like, let me find something funny. Well, let me just laugh about something silly.
Yes.
But I love that. And I think just in finding more joy in the things we do every day, even work. There's days where my schedule is so full and I'm like, oh man, I'm going to be so busy today. But then it's like, I'm doing podcasts like this and I'm like, this is great. This is so fun. And so I think it's like just reframing it as far as you were not passionate about the job you did for a long time, finding something else that makes you passionate.
And like you said, the reframe. This is
Mhm.
what I've done with the transplant, right? I've reframed it into something positive.
Yeah.
So now I can help other people.
Yeah, exactly. And I think any of our struggles, I mean, I know just all of my stuff, I've got a lot. And some of my listeners, if you've been listening, I can't help but turn it into something great because if I was sitting here and just so negative about everything, I could go down a terrible, being a hole. What kind of life is that? But
It's so easy to do, though. I don't know why, as humans, we like that. It's like driving on the highway and seeing an accident, and we all have to slow down and stop to look at it. Why do we do that?
I don't, I know.
I don't know. But yes, I do try to look for the joy in every day. And that's another really great thing to do. So I actually just did this video. I have a new series that I started called Make It Monday. And the very first one that I did was the gratitude jar. And so what you do is every day you write down something good that happened or something that you loved or that you're grateful for, and you write it, and it's just on this little tiny piece of paper, and then you put it in a jar. And
I
on
love that.
December 31st, at the end of that year, you go through and you read about the fabulous year you had. I mean, how awesome is that?
That's a great idea. Every time that we have dinner together as a family, every night, we go around the table and say, oh, what are 3 good things that either happened to you today or that you did for somebody else? And I've got 3 kids,
Yes.
so this usually takes the whole time at dinner, but we don't write them down. So that would be a really fun thing to write them down, put them in a little jar, and then go back and look at it at the end of the year. That's a good idea.
Yeah. I love that you do
Yeah.
that with your kids too. So
Oh, yeah.
that's a great start. It'll stick
Well,
with them.
yeah, my oldest is in 4th grade and we got to stay positive. Sometimes these days at school are just hard. And I'm like, I'm so glad I'm not in that place anymore. It can be hard. Gina, this has been so fun. And I know we can find you on Instagram at Gina Marisa Wellness. Is there anything else that you want to leave our listeners with today?
I would just like to remind everybody to slow down. Really, I think it's really important for your overall health and wellness to take time out in your day, like we've talked about, either to go and walk or go and laugh. You call your best friend. Really make it intentional in your day to slow down, and it will be super beneficial.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Allison. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you for being a part of my journey on What the Gut podcast. For a deeper dive into today's topics, head over to allisonandwellness.com/whatthegut or find the detailed show notes linked below. Hey, and don't miss out on future episodes. Hit that subscribe button, and if you love this one, please leave me a review. Let's keep the conversation going over on Instagram. Connect with me and stay updated and engaged with my awesome community. Plus, share these valuable insights with your tribe. They deserve to feel as amazing as you do. You can find me at Allison_and_wellness on Instagram. Your support means the world to me. I'm looking forward to our next awesome chat. But until then, stay curious, don't drink too much coffee, keep the vibrant energy flowing, and take care of your gut. Catch you real soon. Oh, and hey, if you're ready to dive deeper into personalized wellness, check out my one-on-one health coaching program at allisonandwellness.com. Let's make your journey to holistic health truly transformative.
Hey there, it's Allison. And if you're anything like me, coffee is a non-negotiable part of your day. But did you know that most coffee is loaded with mold, toxins, and pesticides that could be messing up your gut and hormones? Yeah, no thanks. That's why I only drink Purity coffee. It's organic, tested for toxins, and it's packed with antioxidants that actually support your health instead of wrecking it. It's smooth, delicious, and best of all, it does not leave me feeling jittery or bloated. So if you're ready to upgrade your coffee game and support your gut at the same time, grab a bag of Purity coffee today. Your body will thank you. Oh, and because you are part of the What the Gut family, I've got a special link just for you. Just head to puritycoffee.com and use code AllisonGetsWell for 20% off your first order. Cheers to coffee that loves you back.